last week. We're holding page 266 in the Mimer, the second paragraph on the page. We were discussing about how everything in Kedusha exists b'kiyum atzmi. The difference between the chayes of Klippa is looking for energy and vitality from Kedusha, and it gets that energy and vitality from Kedusha through Chas v'Sholom Mayid being over and Aveda. We said that is why it's similar to the idea of murder. It's associated with the idea of death, because when a person, Chas v'Sholom, injures someone else, he punctures, he lets the blood out. The same thing in Kedusha Kaviyachol. He lets the blood, the life force of Shem Havaya, V'noikiv Shem Havaya, he punctures Shem Havaya Kaviyachol and lets it flow outward into Klippas. And the reason why Klippas need this is because they do not have chayes of their own, except for a limited amount. But in Kedusha, everything lives b'kiyum atzmi. Everything has its own life force, meaning because it's completely joined with Kedusha, it has a life force of its own. It is, and we spoke about it at great length, the Oiris are Me'ein HaMa'or, and there's the Kalim that are joined with the Oiris, and the Neshamas that come from the Oiris and Kalim. They are all Kayum B'kiyum Atzmi, he spoke about before. And now he's going to contrast that with Klippa. How Klippa is different. And Klippa does not have that kiyum at. But on the other side, in Klippa, even though they also have a godly life force, still in all sins, they're not bottled to godliness, they're not bottled to the Eibishter. It's just the opposite. They oppose godliness. Therefore, the chayes eliki that comes into them, they also receive godly life force, but they are not existing with an essential and real true existence. It is like something else pumping them into existence. Why? Because they are in opposition to godliness, where the life force originates from. The mitzad heder bittul olakus, because of the lack of bittul, the godliness, and the godly life force is in a way that transcends and is above them and is outside of them. And even what does come inside of them, and what comes inside of the Klippa, that is in a way of exile. Just like, for example, when a person is in exile, so he does not control his environment, but his environment controls him. When a person is in prison, he's not in control of his environment rules over him. The same thing, the Chayes Eliki is about manifesting godliness and so on. When the Chayes Eliki is inside Klippa, Klippa is in total opposition to godliness. So then the Chayes Eliki is in such a way that it is a state of gullus. It's in a way that it's in exile. When it comes to Kedusha, not only is it not in a way that it's in a state of gullus inside of it, it also is not bread of shame. In other words, the fact that the Chayes Halaki resides in the Oiris and in the Kalim and in the Neshamas is not in such a way that it's bread of shame, because it's unearned, but it's earned. All the different levels in Kedusha has the idea of they serve the Eibishter, they are bottled to the Eibishter. The polar opposite of what Klippa is about. As opposed to the other side, that they are the opposite of his will. The life force of the Eibishter is in a way of exile within them. They do not exist with an essential life. They do not exist independent or alive, that they are truly existing. And their entire life force and vitality comes about through receiving from Kedusha. And how is that facilitated? Through the action of the Aveda. So since it happens through the action of the Aveda, so this explains the question that we posed before. How come, why is Klippa so interested in causing the person to do Avedas? What does he gain from it? He gains from it a lot, because the Maisa Achet ensures a pipeline, because the person that does an Aveda, he punctures, as we said, Shem Havaya, Noikiv Shem Havaya. He ensures a pipeline of energy from Elokus, which ordinarily Klippa would not get, because they're lacking bittul, and those without bittul do not have a natural connection to the life force from God. So now the Rebbe goes on to say, V'hinei klolos ha'hefesh. In Kedusha Lumas, the bottom paragraph, the general difference between Kedusha and Klippa, Begimel and Yonim, is in three aspects. B'shoyrish yisavusam, in their root, from where they come into being from, and then bihisavusam, in how they come into being and when they come into being, ubikiyumam, and in their existence. Who the difference in the root of their coming into being is the everything that came into being is because of his will. And also clip and sitra achra, it's the opposite of his will. Nishave also came about as a result of his will. So the Rebbe is going to explain, what does that mean? If we say that everything comes about because of his will, and the klip sitra achra is really something that is the opposite of the Eibishter's will, therefore, how does it fit to say that everything came into being out of his will, even the klippers? So there's an expression in a medrash, that the medrash says that before the world was created, the Eibishter was creating worlds and destroying them. And he was saying, Dain, these loy hanyanli, do not please me. These worlds do not please me. So the Rebbe says this is this terminology, this phrase is and can be used concerning Klippa. That when you have something of a negative will, in a way, it's an interesting concept. Hashem's will, Hashem's ratzon is so powerful that when he does not want something, in other words, there's a negativity ascribed to the will. So what comes into being is what Chassidus calls mitzias shel heder, an existence of lack, from not having a good will about them. So that causes a being that is not in concert with his will. Let's see it inside. Ainum, top of page 267, because of the fact that these, the klippas, are not pleasing to me. There was a revelation of Hashem's will in the klippas, because that's the only way how the klippas can come into being. Like everything, there needs to be the will of Hashem to be able to bring something into being. But in what way is the will existing? Since the will is in such a way that these do not please me, that there should not be the existence of klippas, there should not be an entity of klippas. Therefore, the klippas came into being according to his will. What does that mean? They came into being according to his will. He didn't want them, so they are mitzias that they're not a mitzias. There came into being this concept that the klippas is an existence of naught, an existence of lack, a non-existent existence. The mitzias ha-klippas, the existence of the klippas is a non-existence The Hainu, this means the Rotzen Shalamayla Poyel Sheisava Sheikfiritzoin, the will of above affects a coming into being that should be according to his will. Since the will of Hashem and the Klippus are that these are not pleasing to me, therefore came about this matter, that the Klippus are lack, the Klippus are naught, the Klippus are a non-existence. He said there's three things. There's the root of the Hisavos, there's the Hisavos, and there's the Kiyum. He says in the root of the coming into being of Klippus, this is how they are different, the Klippus of Kedusha and Kedusha. Hisavos HaKedusha mitzad zeh asher dein hanyan. The coming into being of Kedusha is the other side of the equation that it says over there in the Medrash. Those are pleasing to me. That's where Kedusha comes from. Kedusha comes from those things that were pleasing to Hashem, that Hashem had an open will of. And the coming into being of Klippus is because these are not pleasing to me. So that is the difference in the root of the Hisavos, where it came from. Now, in the actual process of the Hisavos, and the difference in the coming into being of the Klippus is the Hisavos HaKedushahim, the way Kedusha comes into being is that the godly life force shines in it. Since it is nullified to the godly life force, therefore the way it comes into being is in such a way the life force shines into the Kedusha, into the Oides, into the Kalim, into the Neshamas, etc. The way Klippus come into beings in such a way, the godly life force does not shine into it. Like we said earlier, the way the godly life force exists, even that part that's not maki, the part that comes into it in the pneumius, is in a way that it's an exile in it. It does not shine in its environment. Since Klippa is in opposition to godliness, therefore the godly life force is in a state of exile within them. That is the manner of their coming into being. So there's the root. The root is one came from Hashem's will, one came from Hashem's not wanting. The actual coming into being is that in Elikus, that the Chayes Eliki comes down over there in a way that's meir in the Pnimius, and when it comes to Klippus, it's meir over there in such a way that it's golus in them, it doesn't become nisyached with them. Sad Hefrich that because of this distinction, there's the third point that he said also. The kiyum of the Klippus is different than the kiyum of Kedusha. Sad Hefrich Zayish Hefrich Gam the kiyum, there's a difference also in their existence. The Kedusha in holiness, Shaisavaswai, the Gilachai is the coming into being is through the revelation of the life force. The life force manifests itself. It's not in exile, like we said before. In Kedusha, it's able to express itself like a person that's free, that wherever he wants, he goes and he expresses himself, as opposed to someone that's in Golus. The Golus dictates what he's allowed to do. Lachain, since the Chayes Elokit becomes revealed within Kedusha, therefore the godly life force effect in the things that it manifests in, the oiris, the kalim, the neshamas, etc., that they are existing with a kiyum atzmi, like we spoke about before. Enkin klippus as opposed to klippus shesavusam, hiloyai de gilachayis, the coming into being is not through the revelation of the life force. Kiyum shachayis u'kines golus b'saycham. Rather, the life force is in a way of exile within them. Therefore, there is no existence whatsoever in them. The entire receiving of their life force, how are they able to exist? How are they able to continue? Being that their kiyum is not a real kiyum, it's not a kiyum atzmi, it's a mitzvah shel heder, etc. It's a for naught existence. Therefore, only the chet becomes only a yid sin chas v'shalom becomes the vehicle and channel through which the clippers are able to receive their life force and energy. Any question?
This is a very deep theme in Hasidus, I'm sure, but it's fascinating. In Tanya uses a different mashal, right? Like Hashem gives the life force like face to face or from the back. It's the same thing, right?
So the back, the Alter Rebbe also says also through many tzimtzumim, and also the Alter Rebbe used the word golus. So a lot of these terms are there, but it's not elaborated upon the way he makes all the details of it over here, the way he elaborates upon it over here. But he does refer to golus, and he does refer to acharayim, and he does refer to many tzimtzumim. Okay, let's finish the last paragraph of this mimer, and then go on, maybe make a dent in the mimer from the Dvar Malchus that I sent you yesterday. So, bottom of page 267, much closer, but it says, spoke to Moshe, Atem Oivrim Gomer, you are crossing now Arts of Canaan, you're going into the land of Canaan. Machen from them Eretz Yisrael. What was the purpose of the Yidden entering the land of Canaan? They were causing a transformation. They were causing an elevation. They were taking the land of the 7 nations and making it into Eretz Yisrael. Will prepare or designate for you cities. The Arim Miklat to Atikum Lahoirim, the cities of refuge, is the repair for someone that murders, like we said. Shehu Adam Achaite, that we said that in spiritual sense, murder, killing someone, is similar to the idea of a person that sins. The Chol Chet in Hoirig Nefesh Kanal, because every sin is like murder, like killing, because they are extracting the blood, like we said, the life force of Kedusha, the Adam HaElyon, and Shoifer Dam HaAdam Ba'Adam, we said he's pouring out the blood of the supernal man, of the man of Kedusha, the life force of Kedusha, and he's pouring it Be Adam Blial in the wicked Adam of Klippim. And how do we repair this? This has to be specifically through preparation. This is the meaning of the word v'hikrisem. Rashi Chumash explains what's this word v'hikrisem lachem arim. The Rashi says it means preparing or appointing or getting ready these cities of refuge. So just why does it use the word hikrisem? It could have just said make cities of refuge. What's this idea of hikrisem? Prepare it and get it ready and so on. So the Rebbe explains a deeper concept over here. That when we're dealing with being able to be misakin the chet over here, you need to have specifically, you need to have the idea of preparation. What does it mean? The zel v'ikrisem. That's why it says v'ikrisem. The fee shekol inyane kedusha boymai de'achana dafka. All matters of holiness and sanctity come specifically through preparation. And this is a sign of kedusha. In Klippa, things just occur. It happened. I did the Aveda. Nobody goes through a whole hachana to prepare themselves to do an Aveda. A person does an Aveda, they pop into it. In kedusha, it doesn't work that way. In kedusha, there's a whole preparation, a whole avoida till you get to it. There's a joke they say that why don't we make a bracha on the mitzvah of tzedakah? Because if you make a bracha on giving tzedakah, so then the person is going to think, oh, I got to put on a gartel, I got to get my hat and jacket, or I got to go to the mikveh beforehand. In the meantime, the guy could starve and drop dead over there. So therefore, they just give the tzedakah right away. But ordinarily, when it comes to kedusha, yeah, everything has to be a preparation. You don't just jump into it. You put on your hat, your jacket, you put on your gartel, you get prepared. You have to be in the moment, not just, I did it, Anyway, so he says, Vatikun the Arim Mikla and the repair of the cities of refuge. It's not just to remove the punishment and the sin, but rather to affect a refinement internalized in an inner refinement. So it's not just about the external damage that he created by the sin and that earned him the punishment and so on. So too, it's in the person's individual avoidam. Specifically, the Rebbe always quotes this, that the words of Torah act as a refuge. So he says, he's going to say that Torah has a unique property to be able to deal with this type of excess chayis and so on that we supplied the clippers. So he says, why specifically Torah? How is it different than mitzvahs? This is the key among mitzvahs, the fulfillment of mitzvahs. Though also we have this Masechta cited that mitzvahs protect the person temporarily from all negative things. Still in all, in addition to the fact that it's only temporarily, it's like in Kiner mitzvah. Mitzvah is like a candle. A candle only burns for a short amount of time. The way the mitzvah protects is only in a transcendent way, in an outside fashion. A mitzvah is physically usually outside of the person, and it doesn't permeate the person like Torah that becomes one with his mind. The mitzvah saying levushim, like we have at the beginning of Tanya, that mitzvahs are considered garments, and just like garments, shemaginim al adam. This is something that protect on the person. They surround them from the outside, and they protect them from the outside. This is not something that's internal, as opposed to Torah. Through the study of Torah, he becomes joined with an unbelievable union with the Eibishter that there's no union like it. Just like the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, his mind encompasses and takes in and surrounds the idea of the Torah. And the idea of the Torah encompasses and surrounds his mind. There is a union over here. That's an unbelievable union. The Rebbe is going to point out an interesting point. What you do, you point out. You're saying that mitzvahs were temporary, but Torah is not temporary. In addition to that, mitzvahs are only external, but Torah is internal and a great unity. But seemingly that great unity should be only by the time when he's learning. When he's learning, then he has that great unity. The Rebbe says, two lines in the bottom, after Mashim Betanya, though it seems to be indicated in Tanya, during the time of learning, during the time of study, when he learns the topic, so then he has this powerful union, because at the time he's immersed in the idea, and the idea is immersed in him. Therefore, his mind surrounds the idea, and the idea surrounds his mind. There's a lot of details about it that's brought down, that often it says that initially, before he understands the idea fully, but then his mind is like immersed in the idea, so the idea is surrounding him. Once he understands the idea fully, so then his mind encompasses the idea is lying in his mind. But all of this is only taking place during the time of learning. But after learning, one would think that that great union is not there. They're saying no, that even afterwards there's that great union. Since the seichel of the Torah is beyond his intellect, therefore his mind, his intellect is surrounded by the Torah also after study. In other words, like this. The Rebbe points this out in his commentary, in his explanations on Perek Hey in Tanya, where it speaks about that the yichud of Torah is a yichud she'en kamoyu. And the reason, and one of the reasons why the yichud of Torah is a yichud she'en kamoyu is because of, like we said, there is this both I surround, my mind surrounds the Torah, and both the Torah surrounds my mind. So normally, by any intellectual endeavor, there's a two-step process. First, there is my trying to understand the idea. And when I'm trying to understand the idea, so then the idea is still above me, and my mind is immersed in the idea and enveloped by the idea. Once I get the idea, so then it's the other way around. The idea is now inside of my mind, and my mind surrounds it. So it's not the powerful yichud of Torah. Why? Seemingly, Torah also has these two steps. They're saying like this. In an idea in the world, it's either step one or step two. In the first step, you're surrounded by the idea, your mind is surrounded by the idea, and then the second step, the idea is surrounded by your mind. So it's a yichud, but not such a powerful yichud. In Torah, Torah has a unique property. Torah is the seichel of Hashem. It's chachmasa is bara. And Hashem's chachma is infinite. Since Hashem's chachma is infinite, as deep as someone understands the Torah, there are always layers of Torah which remain above it. That means that at the very same time that I understand this very topic in Torah, this very idea, this idea has layers and layers that still remain makif on my seichel. They are still encompassing my seichel, and even when I'm not learning, they remain both. I have taken in the idea within me, and they remain above me. So this is not just limited to the time of Torah study. Therefore, this is a very powerful union that takes place when a person learns Torah. The Torah mitzvahs. That's the advantage of Torah over mitzvahs. The mitzvahs hang levushim. Mitzvahs are called garments. Masha enkin Torah, as opposed to Torah, hini levadshi levush ala nefesh. In addition to the fact that it is a garment to the soul, gam mozin, like Alter Rebbe also says over there in Perikei and Tanya, that Torah has in it both the advantage of being a garment, because of this idea that the Torah encompasses me. When I immerse myself in Torah, it's encompassing me, and even afterwards, like we just now explained, there are the aspects of Torah that remain above me, so it's still encompassing me. So it has the advantage of being a levush, like a mitzvah is a levush, a garment that encompasses me. And it's also food. What's the idea of food? Food is something that I take in and I digest, and it becomes part of me. It becomes damu basar kibsara. They limit our Torah through the study of Torah. Who misyachid in Torah becomes joined with the Torah. So that is why specifically divrei Torah koltim. The words of Torah are what act as a refuge, act as a protection against this type of leakage and feeding of chayis and vitality to klippa that happens through an aveda. Therefore, the words of Torah are considered refuge. Through doing mitzvahs, it's more of an external effect on the person. Through studying Torah, so it internally washes me out and cleanses me and elevates me and transforms me internally and changes me internally. And the Scarlet Vekas on Neshama Be'en Sof Baruch Hu becomes revealed the cleaving and the oneness of the Neshama Be'en Sof. When that becomes revealed, so then the Neshama has in a revealed way the essential existence, the Kiyum Atzmi that we were talking about is the unique idea that's only to be found in Kedusha. Like it says, you are cleaving to Hashem, your God, and because of that, the pasuk continues, through the fact that you're cleaving to Hashem. So the pasuk continues, and the Rebbe like inserts the word Shayideza, it becomes Chayim Kol Chamayim. Through that, you're all alive today. The life force now becomes that you are alive, not like gave the example, when you're wearing a glove on your hand, your glove doesn't become alive because your glove is not one with you. Mashenkin, your hand is a living hand because it's one with the nefesh that's in you. When a Yid learns Torah, so he manifests the chayis, the kiyum atzmi of himself with the Eibishter, and therefore he is truly alive, not like the klippos that are Metzias Shel Heder. Okay.